Willem Adriaan Bonger's Criminality and Economic Conditions takes a deep dive into the roots of crime, looking beyond individual morality and linking it intricately with economic and social conditions. Bonger's work argues that crime is not merely an individual tendency, but is shaped by societal structures, economic inequalities, and social exclusion. To truly grasp the causes of crime, Bonger suggests that we must consider the environment and economic conditions surrounding the individual. Think about how factors like poverty, unemployment, or social exclusion influence someone's inclination towards crime. Bonger highlights that these economic and social factors contribute significantly to criminal behavior. For instance, a young person growing up in a low-income neighborhood might be more likely to engage in criminal activities compared to someone with better economic opportunities. This scenario reveals how economic disparities can impact crime rates. Bonger's research emphasizes the importance of viewing criminology not just as a legal issue, but as a socio-economic phenomenon. Understanding the roots of crime is crucial for addressing social issues and can lead to developing more comprehensive and effective crime-fighting strategies. Bonger's exploration of the relationship between crime and economic conditions underscores that crime is a social concept rather than a purely biological one. The classification of an act as a crime is based on its societal harm, not biological abnormalities. For example, theft is deemed criminal because society views such behavior as harmful. According to Bonger, economic factors have a significant impact on criminal behavior. Economic hardships like poverty or unemployment can drive individuals to commit crimes. In real-life terms, someone experiencing financial difficulties might resort to illegal means to meet basic needs, supporting Bonger's theory. Furthermore, Bonger argues against the effectiveness of methods like sterilization in reducing crime rates. Using the example of Australia, he notes that the descendants of criminals often have low crime rates, challenging the theory of hereditary criminality. This suggests that the origins of crime are more rooted in environmental and economic factors. Bonger's work encourages American readers to consider the importance of economic and environmental conditions in understanding the roots of crime. In America, the cost of dealing with crime reaches billions of dollars annually, surpassing spending on charities, education, and religious activities. This highlights the necessity of examining the crime problem more deeply. However, initial investigations faced significant obstacles due to a lack of reliable data and statistics. The establishment of the American Institute for Criminal Law and Criminology in 1909 laid the groundwork for more systematic research. In Europe, similar studies were more common, resulting in numerous valuable works. Willem Adriaan Bonger advocates for an approach that seeks the causes of crime in environmental factors. He believes that the roots of crime lie in societal structures rather than the individual. For instance, the presence of criminals' descendants in Australia, yet low crime rates, indicates that crime is not hereditary. Bonger emphasizes the impact of external factors like economic inequalities on crime and suggests that improving social conditions could reduce crime rates. This perspective offers a broader understanding of crime's causes and highlights the importance of economic and social reforms in solving this societal issue. Drawing inspiration from Thomas More's Utopia, Bonger questions the harsh justice system of England at the time and its impact on crime rates. More's character, Raphael Hythloday, argues that extreme punishments, like the death penalty for theft, are excessive and insufficient for preventing crime. Many who commit theft do so out of necessity when they cannot find other means of livelihood. This situation arises from societal structures and economic systems. In the real world, regions with high unemployment and poverty often experience rising crime rates. People may resort to illegal activities to meet their basic needs. More's critique raises important discussions about the effectiveness of economic equality in the justice system in combating crime. It emphasizes the need for society to address the economic and social conditions that push people towards crime. Otherwise, harsh penalties alone are not a sufficient solution. Bonger's work focuses on the link between crime and economic inequalities. He argues that individuals' appropriation of land and resources leads to social unrest. These inequalities result in a concentration of power and wealth in the hands of a wealthy minority, while the masses remain impoverished. This situation is seen as a fundamental source of crime, with people turning to theft and other crimes for survival. In the real world, economic hardships often leave people desperate, pushing them towards illegal paths. For example, high crime rates in areas with high unemployment and poverty are no coincidence. Bonger proposes a fairer distribution of resources to address these inequalities. He argues that a system where all members of society benefit equally could reduce crime rates. Achieving economic justice is viewed as the key to lasting peace and prosperity in society. The book discusses how human societies are built on legal and economic foundations, initially relying on violence in their pursuit of justice. Societies accepted violence as inevitable while establishing legal order, but felt it necessary to limit this violence and protect unjustly acquired property. Thus, while violence was used as a tool in forming societal order, the idea emerged that individual violence should be curbed. For instance, individual crimes like theft were punished, while larger acts serving societal order were overlooked. Another important point in the book is the impact of economic inequality on crime. Poverty and injustice are identified as factors fueling crime. As the gap between the rich and the poor widens, crime rates increase. This situation is evident today. Neighborhoods plagued by unemployment and poverty often have high crime rates. In this context, the author argues that the most effective way to prevent crime is to achieve social equality and justice. Bonger argues that economic inequalities and the injustice of social order are the roots of crime. While wealthy individuals, secure in their material well-being, are less inclined to commit crimes, those in poverty often resort to theft and violence. This division between the rich and the poor deepens the issue. A real-world example supporting this theory is the rise in crime rates in cities with high income inequality. When people cannot meet their basic needs, desperation may lead them to crime. Bonger suggests that establishing a fairer economic system could prevent this situation. Ensuring everyone has an income to meet basic needs could significantly reduce crime rates. Additionally, Bonger highlights the inherent injustice in the concept of private property, suggesting it triggers crime. He believes reshaping the social order could eradicate crime and create a more peaceful society. The impact of economic conditions and private property on social crimes is emphasized. Bonger posits that people's characters are shaped by their environment. A negative environment breeds negative individuals, while a positive environment fosters positive ones. The organization of modern society leaves many living in poverty, which negatively impacts them physically, intellectually, and morally. For example, children from low-income families often lack access to adequate education, hindering their development into healthy individuals. According to Bonger, private property fosters selfishness and desensitizes individuals to others, paving the way for injustice, inequality, and crime. Private property alienates individuals from each other, leading to societal conflicts. For instance, a wealthy person's possessions might lead to a more selfish and isolated life. The author argues that solving these problems requires eliminating private property and ensuring fair resource distribution. This would reduce inequalities and lower crime rates. These views help us understand the impact of social structure and economic conditions on individual behavior. The relationship between crime and economic conditions is complex yet clear. The gap between poverty and wealth drives people to theft and fraud. Interestingly, theft is not exclusive to the poor. The wealthy also engage in theft by exploiting legal loopholes. Thus, theft and fraud are prevalent across all social strata. In real life, you might have seen a child shoplifting or a businessman committing financial fraud. Economic inequality could be the underlying reason for both. Bonger argues that even strict laws set by the wealthy cannot change this situation. The wealthy profit even from societal catastrophes. For example, they increase their wealth during wars or famines. Ultimately, economic conditions significantly impact crime rates. As long as inequality and injustice persist, reducing crime rates is challenging. As Bonger states, this situation is an inevitable consequence of unrestricted property rights. Bonger's book tackles the complex relationship between criminality and economic conditions, a topic rife with debate. For example, Gary's studies show that wealth can increase crime rates, particularly in northern France. However, the same wealth does not have the same effect in southern France, suggesting that economic conditions' impact on crime varies by region. This implies that poverty is not always the root cause of crime, though it plays a significant role. Adolphe Quetelet argues that crime reflects the social structure. He views society as a mechanism preparing crimes, with criminals as its executors. Quetelet notes that crime rates follow a regular pattern, influenced by social changes. This perspective holds hope that improving social institutions and habits can reduce crime rates. Finally, Ed Bupso highlights the intertwining of poverty and crime. He observed that as poverty levels rose in Flanders, so did crime rates. Economic difficulties can weaken people's sense of justice and ethics, increasing their propensity for crime. Real-world economic crises and corresponding crime spikes support this theory. In Flanders, there is a direct relationship between crime rates and economic conditions. Following the 1845 food shortage, crime rates soared, with the number of incarcerations nearly quadrupling. Economic hardships drove people to crime, with many committing offences to secure shelter. Sadly, crime rates also rose among children, with over 26,000 children imprisoned or placed in workhouses between 1845 to 1847. These children, mostly from Flanders, were forced to leave their homes due to poverty. For instance, numerous young detainees were found in Ghent and Bruges prisons. Economic difficulties had similar effects in England. Between 1840 and 1847, crime rates doubled. As economic conditions improved, crime rates fell. Lower prices and increased employment reduced crime. However, continued economic struggles predicted rising crime rates. This clearly illustrates the impact of economic prosperity on crime rates, suggesting that improved economic conditions positively affect crime rates. Dr. Mayer's research indicates that fluctuations in grain prices significantly affect crime rates. For instance, years with rising grain prices saw increased property crimes. However, crimes like infanticide and abortion did not follow this pattern. This shows how economic hardships differently impact specific crime types. In real life, we all know how economic crises leave people struggling. During periods of rising unemployment, those facing financial difficulties are more likely to turn to crimes like theft. Similarly, price hikes in basic needs can lead to increased petty crimes like begging and vagrancy. Dr. Mayer's findings help us understand the impact of economic conditions on crime. Understanding how economic fluctuations affect crime rates is a crucial step in solving societal problems. This information can guide policymakers in mitigating the effects of economic crises. The link between economy and crime is an important factor to consider for creating safer and fairer societies. The most important lessons from this book are: 1. The roots of crime are more closely related to economic and social conditions than individual morality. Therefore, economic and social reforms are crucial in combating crime. 2. Economic inequalities significantly contribute to crime, and addressing these disparities could reduce crime rates. 3. Private property fosters selfishness and societal conflict, highlighting the need for fair resource distribution. 4. Society's structure plays a significant role in shaping criminal behavior. Improving social institutions could lower crime rates. 5. Economic prosperity can positively affect crime rates, suggesting that improving economic conditions may lead to safer societies. 6. Understanding the link between economic conditions and crime can guide effective policy making and crime prevention strategies.